This is Zambia, this the nation. Yeah, yeah. Give us, you give us. This is Zambia.
It's a very beautiful and, of course, a lovely Monday evening. You know, it's all about the fearless debate. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Blunt Talk. My name is Keith Mwemba. Now, in our quest to get to look at what, this administration and the government of the day is all about, we obviously keep on to continue debating on the national matters. And as such, this evening, we get to look at the Zambians' need. What does it look like? To help me delve more into this beautiful debate, I have with me Mr. Alex Chikantika, who is the Director of Media from the newly formed political party Citizens First. Mr. Alex, good evening and welcome to Blunt Talk.
Good evening, Comrade Mwemba, and good evening, our dear listeners.
All right. And from the ruling United Party for National Development, we have the Kamwala Ward Councillor, Comrade Minda Simata. Comrade Simata, good evening and welcome to the Blunt Talk.
Good evening, Keith, and good evening from you out there.
All right. And also, Mr. Riu Mufwaya comes from Zambia, Must Prosper, who's the National Youth Chairperson. Mr. Mufwaya, good evening and welcome to the Blunt Talk.
Good evening, comrade, and good evening, viewers.
Great. World over, in most of the third world countries grapple with the, the cost of living, which has the national conversation even around here in Zambia. The economy, like it was prior to the 2021 general elections, was all about the economy being fixed. We get to begin with what the economic outlook for Zambia currently is. Let me begin with you, Mr. Mufwaya. How do you vision the economic outlook of Zambia currently?
Good evening once more. The economic outlook, or rather the economic situation at the moment in the nation, is very worrying. The reason I'm saying this is not even, mostly we say every time somebody gets to say anything that is probably in exact reverse to what the current party is actually advocating for. People say it's being political and malicious. Otherwise, looking at fuel itself, which is the driving force for our economy, looking also at how commodities have actually been affected, meal, for example. So all I can say is we are not in a space where I would say we have a direction. Remember, we have a government that has been boasting and telling us to say inflation is at a single digit. They were boasting to say things that are going to be far better than what we've experienced previously. But truth be told, the unfortunate part is it seems they read so many books on ideal governments and how things are supposed to be. Otherwise, looking at where we are, go in the compounds, for example. How is this economy, even the cost of living, affecting an ordinary Zambian? Most people are in utter poverty. And it's so sad that we seem not to even have a single solution as it stands. You find there's a lot being talked about. There are very funny figures being mentioned. Right at this particular moment as I'm talking to you, all I can say is they do not have a proper roadmap. They do not have an agenda. They don't really know what they are here to fix. It seems they had one particular enemy, and of which that enemy has been brought down. What is left now, it is just mere stories. They keep feeding us with so many lies.
All right, time is up. Let me get to Comrade, Minda Simata, coming from the ruling party. What do you see with the economy currently?
Thank you very much, Keith, for that question. And once again, thank you for inviting me on this program. From the outset, I would like to say that Rome was not built in a day. a government in power, we have never shied away from acknowledging that there are difficulties that we have to face in ensuring to say that we improve the economy. What are we talking about when we improve the economy? I think to the general Zambian out there, the economy is about how many meals can you afford in a day? Are your children able to go to school? Are you able to access health services? Are there any social and economic programs that are available for you to make you improve your life? Let's say perhaps if you are not in employment, are there any government programs that are available to you for you to have a better life? And I think the UPND government has made tremendous strides in that direction. For the first time ever, we've had recruitment of 33,000 teachers into the civil service. We've got about 11 to 12,000 health workers that are being recruited, and this is being done on merit. For the first time ever, ordinary Zambian youths have got the capacity to enter into the civil service, not because they have bribed someone, not because they know someone, but because they deserve it. And for the first time ever, you go into the compounds, you hear somebody get a job, not because they knew anyone, but because they deserved it. Of course, on other fronts, such as the cost of living, we continue to face challenges, but you understand that this country called Zambia does not exist in a vacuum. There are outside forces, there are market forces that determine some of the economic drivers that have an impact on livelihoods. For instance, if you're going to talk about fuel, Zambia does not produce any fuel. We import fuel, and we continue to buy fuel at the market, at the international market price, and fuel fluctuations are also affected by how much the dollar is costing vis-a-vis to the kwacha. So there are all these programs, challenges that we are facing, and we're facing them head on. And coming to local government, I think we've done tremendously well. Our record in the local government, I think, speaks for itself. For the first time ever, CDF has been increased exponentially. Of course, there will be the question to say, where is this CDF? Of course, there are teething problems in implementing this CDF to ensure to say that it gets on the grounds and people get to see the benefits, the infrastructure, the schools, the hospitals, and the roads. All these will be seen. But we have, like the president says, to remove the bottlenecks or the hindrances for the CDF to roll out. And so on the social and economic front, you're going to see a lot of improvement, especially this year.
All right. Let's get to look at the citizens first with, being in existence of a very few months. How have you been able to assess the economic situation in the country? Mr. Ale.
Thank you, comrade, and thank you to our dear viewers, wherever you're seeing us from. Where we are standing economically, comrade, I can say we are in a limping economy. And I'll base my argument on 4 key sectors which this government has failed to even show us a clear picture on how they are going to handle the economic situations in the 5 key sectors. Number 1 is agriculture. This government has failed to handle the way agriculture is supposed to be handled. Not only have they failed, they have also failed to give us a roadmap on how they are going to improve it. The FISI program is something else. I can confirm on this platform, comrade, that there are places in this country where farming inputs, fertilizer, seeds have not reached the farmers. Not only farming, the mining sector. The mining sector is a key sector which should be, giving us revenue as a nation. What did President Hakainde Hichilema do? 3 weeks after forming government, he surrendered our mineral taxes to the mine owners and replacing it with what we call deductive tax in economics. So all those, it's robbing the citizens of Zambia. Tourism is another very important sector where we can, make a lot of money as a country. But this government has neglected it. Imagine the signing MOUs with countries like the Eswatini. And when you look at the way of life of people in Eswatini, the people who are as poor as some countries, like I would not want to mention, and for them to come to Zambia and, you know, pump in money in our sector of tourism is something else. The energy sector. This is why we're even talking about the cost of living today. It's because President Hakainde Hichilema and his government, they have failed to handle the issue of energy the way it's supposed to be handled. They have increased the prices of, you know, fuel. Not only fuel, they have also increased the electricity tariffs. What does that translate to our economy? The high price of commodities. And what are you doing to a nation where things are keeping to, you know, are escalating in terms of prices? Our country is in its, you know, knees where the economy is concerned.
All right. Let me get to Mr. Mfwa. As we get into a different round, you've been able to assess as Zambia must prosper this whole economic malaise Zambia is grappling with. If you are in government now and understanding the challenges the country is facing, how would you be able to turn around the economic, you know, or carry out the economic transformation for the Mother Zambia?
The solution for Zambia has always been production. That's the solution for Zambia. But if you have to also look at even just the reason, somehow there was a huge celebration for getting a loan. Ngongole, you celebrate. What was the essence of that particular loan? You realize it's all about trying to cushion the pressure, the crisis that we had. But what is this money meant for? You realize that this money is just there to sustain some things that probably, I would say, service delivery issues in the nation, paying local debt, and all these other things. Now, if you have to look at what agenda does the UPND have at the moment, you realize that the whole agenda they have, from the time they started up to this very moment, it's confusing. We don't know which direction we're headed to. There's a boast of my dear Honorable Councillor here, said, no, they've actually been employing people from the compounds, are even getting jobs and everything. They'll never acknowledge what PF did. That's the nature of people, but they'll always point at the wrongs. It's impossible. What have they so far built for them to actually boast of creating employment? Is that creation of employment or filling in positions where those, the filling in vacancies, so to say? They're filling in vacancies.
I want you to speak as Zambia must.
As Zambia,
I want to speak on behalf of the Patriot Front.
No, yes.
What is your alternative? What are you
The
going
alternative is production, production, production. That is the solution. The moment we start producing, we invest in industry and also start adding value to our minerals. That is the solution. You'll find that it will be very easy for most of us in this nation. Each and every person will be productive. Each and every person will have will be creative, and their creativity will be appreciated, because we are living in a space where we are trying to bring the best out of the local resources, the natural resources we have. That is why we say production is the solution, not what we are seeing right now.
All right. Comrade Simata, as the UPND going into the general elections of 2021, the message was very clear. Bali was going to fix it, nothing but the economy. With the way the trajectory of the economic transformation is going, are you living to the billing as the UPND?
Keith, I think one thing that you must realize, which Zambians out there must realize, is that the Republican President, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, means well for the people. And he intends, together with his team, the UPND at large, to fulfill those promises that were made. But I think it would be folly of us to ignore the history where we're coming from. We inherited a treasury which was almost bankrupt. We inherited several problems in all the sectors of the economy, which were a result of rampant corruption, economic mismanagement. We inherited huge debts, which I'm afraid all of us who are on this panel will never pay in our lifetime. That is not the fault of the UPND at all. That is largely the fault of the PF. And when we talk about the PF, some people say, why can't you focus on development? Look, every country has a history, and we cannot forget history, because if we forget where we're coming from, we won't understand why we have the problems that we have today. And if you're going to talk about problems in the energy sector, you're going to talk about problems in agriculture, talking about problems in the production sector, you have to look at the history. We are not here to berate or to continue criticizing the PF government for the mistakes, which will obviously continue to be a subject of debate. But what we are saying is that we cannot rebuild or mend the damage which was done over a period of 10 years in 1 year. I think the opposition in general is expecting too much too soon. They fail to acknowledge the strides that we are making. I just gave you a clear example of how the president has devolved funds from central government into local government by increasing the CDF. He wants these funds to touch the people right at the grassroots. And there are many stories, many success stories that you can talk about people that are benefiting from the CDF. But of course, the argument might be, well, it's not everyone that is benefiting. Of course, it's not everyone that's benefiting. For instance, Keith, perhaps you haven't got a grant yourself, but you know someone who has. And perhaps in the area where you live, you'll be getting a standard tarmac, you'll be getting running water, you'll be getting improved sanitation under Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company with their $1 billion program for Lusaka City. All that is in the pipeline. We've only been in power for about 1 year, 6 months. The damage that was done was over 10 years. And this is almost irreparable damage. And you know, when people talk about why did you rush to the IMF to borrow money? Since when did this country ever not borrow money from the IMF? The IMF program began in 1987 during the regime of, may his soul rest in peace, the first Republican president, Dr. Kaunda. That's when the IMF program began. A lot of third world countries in Africa, you can't even point at a single country in Africa that has never gone to the IMF. The IMF is where you go when you've got severe problems which you need to attend to in the short term. We are not saying that we are counting on debt dependency, on borrowing for us to move this country forward. What we are saying is that, yes, we have to borrow to stabilize the economy. When we stabilize the economy, the fundamentals begin to work, then we can begin to use our own resources, our own human capital to improve the lives of the Zambian people. The UPND government did make those promises you're talking about, and we're on track to achieving them.
All right, let's get to listen to you, Comrade Alex. As citizens first, already, what is your alternative to the current economic, transformation agenda that the UPND is carrying out?
Thank you, comrade. Our solution to the current economic problems we're facing as a nation is number one. Actually, that's where even everything about CF stands for. It's about industrialization. Without the industries, I'm glad even comrade, my dear comrade from ZMP mentioned about it. Without industries in this country, comrade, we'll never go anywhere. Because under industrialization, we have got employment, which is going to come out of industrialization. Under industrialization, comrade, we have entrepreneurs who are going to be doing things in an enabling environment where businesses are going to be, in a position where people will be independent financially. Not what we are seeing today, where people are expecting jobs from the government. Everyone now is expecting jobs from the government because they have put our economy in a position where doing a business, comrade, has become very difficult. And you've seen it. Looking at the load shedding we are seeing, it is very difficult. You can imagine how people who own these barber shops, saloons, and butcheries, the problems they're facing. That can tell every one of us that truly doing business in this country is very expensive. So people are resorting now to find or looking for employment under the government. I'm very disappointed with my comrade from the UPND talking about every regime in this country, running to IMF. No, sir. Chiluba didn't go to the IMF. He introduced a program called SAP, Structural Adjustment Program. That was a program, he said, are you Zambians? Are you citizens? This is why we're even saying we are citizens first. Are you citizens ready to tighten up your belts? And the Zambians were there saying, yes, we are. And he introduced the SAP program in order for us to see the roads we are seeing done by the MMD under President Chiluba also other things the MMD did. It was under the same structural adjustment program. So it is not the only alternative going to the IMF to get in Congole and say, now we'll fix our economy. And we are not being too expectant to President Hakainde Hichilema and his government when we say, you promised us. Because he was even putting a time frame, comrade. These things are in public domain, where he was even mentioning hours. I'm zoning at 10 hours, at 15, at 14 hours, something is going to happen. Is one person who even mentioned, is it 2 months ago, comrade? He was in Parliament, where he mentioned to say, just in 1 year, we have managed to end load shedding. And load shedding is here. So when we say, Mr. President, this is what you're telling us, and this is what is obtaining on the ground, are we being unfair to him? The answer is not at all. So as the CF, we've been giving not only credible checks and balances, but also elevated checks and balances. We are there. When this government formed the government, we said, we'll give them 100 days. That was the time my president was somewhere else. We said, we will not just jump on him and start criticizing. We provide solutions. Just on the issue of load shedding, we are even giving, solutions to this government. We are telling them, stop this export of, power to these other countries.
Mr. Alex, thank you so much. Your time is up. Let me get to, Zambia must prosper. Now, of Zambia's external debt, 46% is owed to private lenders, 22% to China, 8% to other governments, and 18% to multilateral institutions. China is among the government lenders to agree a longer debt repayment schedule that private lenders, including banks, have so far somewhat resisted. Last year, September, Zambia got an agreement of something that I think all of you mentioned, of the IMF, agreement of 1.3 billion kwacha. Mr. Mfwai, do you think the IMF is the way to get out of the debt crisis?
The IMF is not the way. You look at the countries where they've been, you look at the previous...
And for this round, you'll be able to say whether or not the IMF is the way. If not,
it's not.
The alternative, what's next?
It's not.
Right.
The IMF is not. It is not, and it will never be. If you have to look at where we're coming from and where we're at, if you remember, even during Kaunda's time, Kaunda even talked about how China will never tell you how to use the money they're giving you. If you have a responsible leadership, if you have a responsible government, why should you be told on how to use the very money, the loan that has been given to you? And why should it always have to come with conditions? And the same so-called conditions that it comes with mostly are hidden. And today, we're even talking about issues of homosexual, which are not even clear up to this very moment. Why? Because this, if you remember even previously, President Edgar Chagwalungu, the former president, talked about, if you're giving us aid under such conditions, we're not going to accept this aid. So the point is, IMF is never the solution.
Is homosexuality part of the conditions?
I haven't said that.
Why?
I said there are always hidden conditions. If you've noticed, there's been so much quietness on it. The aggressiveness with which the PF had on addressing this issue with how it is right now. It's so subtle, you realize that there's a finger in the pie somewhere. I'm not saying, follow me.
Sure.
I'm not saying those are part of the conditions. But clearly, if you have to see how things have been and how things are unveiling, you'd even tell to say there are so many conditions that we do not know about. Already, even with the power issue, how does a responsible government allow its people to be load shedded for half a day? And you load shed your people during the most productive times for the small, medium enterprises and expect productivity, and you expect to be the hope that the Zambian people were expecting from you. You promise to create an enabling environment for small people, for people in small businesses. You promise an enabling environment for people who actually are trying to survive and start their lives. But looking at the condition in the space we're in, it just shows that this is a government that is unconcerned. This is a government that doesn't even know what it's doing. And even going to the other issue is how, looking at, you've mentioned the debt we have. the biggest country that we owe is China. Have you seen efforts by our current leaders going to China? Have you seen efforts, if you are talking about managing the debt, how intentional are you about it? If you are not engaging, you're not putting and allowing China to sit on the table to renegotiate the terms and probably see, we're saying they've given us time. What are they doing? Already when the president was out, if you remember, one of the senates from the US said something about China, which made the Chinese respond about a fortnight ago or less. They talked about this very thing to say we cannot be disrespected like this. Let those who are talking about us first consider and concentrate on managing their debt in their country.
Mr. Mfwa, we have little time, so when you have time, give it your very best shot. Comrade Simata, as a UPND, did you run out of ideas or homegrown solutions for the government to be able to go for IMF? How critical is this agreement?
Thank you once again for that question. Before I respond to your question, I just want to correct my comrade here from Citizens First. I think he's misleading the nation when he says that the MMD government never had an IMF deal. The so-called SAPS he's talking about, that's the Structural Adjustment Program. That's an IMF program. It simply talks about how you should restructure your systems in your government in order to enable you to be more productive and to be able to repay the debt, some of which included privatizing the mining companies, some of which included reducing the manpower in the civil service, others had to be retrenched. All those are programs which were from the IMF. So I think he should read his history better so that it does not mislead the nation. Every government, like I stated, starting with the UNIP in its latter years, did borrow. Through Chiluba, they did borrow. If it's President Mwanawasa, he was even more lucky because he had the HIPIC program, which worked in favor of Zambia, where we fell under the highly indebted poor countries. Most of our debts were cancelled. As the MMD was phasing out, the PF came in, then they jump-started the borrowing again, and here we are. 10 years later, we have a very, very huge debt, which is incumbent upon us to pay. So coming back to your question, did the UPNG run out of ideas when we went to the IMF? No, we did not run out of ideas. And the IMF is not the only country that we're talking to. Of course, you have seen that our president is making various efforts to engage countries that can help us develop. Some of them we signed bilateral agreements, others are investing in various sectors of the economy. So the IMF is not the one-size-fits-all solution for the UPND. It's only part of the solution. We need the money. We need the money to stabilize the economy. We need the money to deal with issues of inflation. We need it to stabilize the current economic fundamentals, which so far we have done so well. We have managed to control inflation. And I must say that it won't be rosy immediately, but we are going to see the results as we go forward, because at the end of the day, what we have to do is to swallow a bitter pill. Why are we swallowing a bitter pill? Like I mentioned, we have a history where we're coming from. 10 years of economic mismanagement, 10 years of massive industrial corruption. Those have taken a toll on our economy. So basically, you're looking at the UPND as being a mechanic that is there to stabilize a machine and get it working so that we can have all those things that the people of Zambia are expecting. More jobs, not just in the civil service, but also supporting our small and medium enterprises, while we're ensuring to say that vital social sectors such as education, healthcare, housing and infrastructure also get going.
All right, Comrade Simata, thank you so much. Mr. Alex, could you be able to share with us, as Citizens First, how you've looked at the International Monetary Fund? Also bearing in mind to say the UPND has been able to get to this agreement almost, but also the previous administration sought after this particular agreement. As the Citizens First, if you are in government, will you be able to also go for IMF? If not, what?
Thank you, Comrade Keith. As Citizens First, we are not going to go for the IMF. And the reason is simple. Comrade, under just one sector, mining, annually we are able to accumulate or make 4.5 billion US dollars under the same mineral royalties we have surrendered to the mine owners. And yet, we have this IMF where we've gone to borrow 1.
Are you able to compute how the government can be able to generate 4.5 billion. Is it per annum?
It's per annum, yes.
How? Will you be able to manage that?
The mineral royalties we had, comrade, not the deductive tax which President Hakainde has introduced. We were supposed to, per annum, we were making 4 point. In fact, this year, last year we were supposed to make 3.7 because of low production levels in some mining companies. So, all these years, comrade, we were making records are there, 4.5 billion US dollars, just on mineral royalties. But today, we've gone to the IMF to borrow 1.3, which has come with conditions which we do not even understand. So, Nkongole, comrade, is never a solution to stabilize your home and your economy. We need to stand up. He's saying we need the money. This UPND government, from the word go, they started telling us that they inherited empty coffers. These empty coffers they talk about, comrade, they found 13.7 billion in that account. Control 99 at 13.7 billion US dollars, comrade, when they inherited this government. And they're telling us that the only solution we have as Mother Zambia is to go for IMF. And they have sidelined a very key stakeholder in the Congolese we have as a nation, which we are supposed to be paying as bullet payments, the Chinese. 46, you mentioned 46% of the Congolese we have as a nation is coming from the Asian part of the world. And yet we have moved our nation towards the Western. And this is why this country is... President Hakainde has been to Washington, D.C. and New York 4 times now. And he has never been to Beijing. Our key stakeholders in this Congole issue, we have never been there. What are we telling them? Because when you borrow from someone, you become...
Hold your thought. We do not have enough time here. Mr. Mfwaya, let's get to twist a little bit of our conversation. Zambia boasts of having over about 73 tribes. And like our motto is, one Zambia, one nation. With regards to the presidential appointment and the balancing of regions, how have you looked at this, administration? There is a narrative currently going on in the country to say President Hakainde Hichilema is being tribal. Are you subscribing to that narrative as Zambia must prosper?
That's really putting you on a weird spot. But anyway, I would have loved to probably first comment on what my comrade had earlier stated.
You can add on. You've got 3 minutes.
Yes. So first things first. Yeah, as he was trying to also help my brother remember his history. Also, IMF is not a country, my brother. It's an organization. Should just then also there are some issues that we should always get to appreciate. I know it's right now, I am standing in for Zambia Must Prosper. He's standing in for UPND. Probably, it's even hard to be very objective. He knows what is happening in the country currently. Even if he's going to sound so poetic and good in certain things, but the truth is, from how things are being managed at the moment, it's very clear. If you were, the only way we can even appreciate this so-called inflation, let's look at the cost of living itself. It speaks for itself. Even just, we don't even understand. It's hard to make budgets on how much gas is we'll spend. And everything moves on fuel. It's very difficult to be in a space where we'll be able to say, okay, this government knows what they're doing. Remember, inflation itself pushes government to adjust on its policy direction. And at the moment, you can only adjust in your policy direction, but at the moment, it doesn't seem as if we have any productive policies that we can boast of that is going to help us repay that particular loan. Already, he was talking about all of us being in debt as Zambians. Just for the record, all of us right now, every single Zambian, is owing at least $900 right now. Records are there. About $900. Then there's a lot we expected from UP. Not that we wanted them to take us to the actual promised land, but like my comrade earlier said, they promised so much, and much is expected from them at the moment. But look at what is happening currently. Even when they talk about no health, education, what is education if kids are spending 2-3 hours in schools, and out of those very places now, they are congested?
You spent
2 minutes.
You spent this round,
Yes.
you know, according to that, but your time is up. I'm
It's
sorry.
3 minutes already.
It's 3 minutes already. I'm keeping track of it.
I don't really know if my time is so fast, but I just feel like the engineer for time has issues there.
I'm telling you.
Okay, can I conclude?
I'm assuring you. 30 seconds.
Can I conclude on something?
30 seconds.
Yes. Now back to the question you asked me. Is he tribal? I'm not a person who subscribes to tribal talks. I don't subscribe to that. But generally, from the look of things, I feel there is invisible violence going on in terms of who needs to be picked for what. And if you are to sit and hear stories of people who work in these institutions, you're going to have a clear picture. Unfortunately, people don't move around with phones everywhere. But tribalism is happening, and it's very rampant at the moment. That I can tell you.
All right, let me get to hear from Comrade Simata. There is a narrative that is being propagated now. Are you subscribing to that as a member of the UPN and also a representative of Kamala Ward?
What was the question again?
There is a narrative.
Which narrative, moderator?
To say there is tribalism being propagated by the head of state or this government. Is it true or not?
I haven't seen it. That's my simple question. I haven't seen it. There is no tribalism that the head of state is practicing. All appointments are on merit. That is all. But I'll tell you for a fact that the pawn pushers and the apostles of tribalism are the PF. You've heard the voice note from, is it Steady Mwale, former PS for Defense? How he's going on about the Bembas and all these things. I think these are the people that try to be very divisive. You've seen the videos of the so-called presidential aspirant for the PF, Chimba Kambwili, how he invited certain hungry youths to his home, whom he gave a little bit of money here and there, and it was a hired mob to scandalize and to slur the UPND and the president in general. You heard the songs. I don't want to go into that. All I can say is that tribalism is very unfortunate, but I think we are dealing with a different generation. Like you have heard, I'm happy to hear from my comrades here, from Zambia Must Prosper, that he's not into tribalism, he does not entertain it, and neither do I. This is a different generation. I think the old guards in politics, especially in the PF, I think they're going on a trajectory that really isn't going to work. I think from now on, tribal cards are not going to work in this country because the new generation is not focused on tribe. We are focused on service delivery. If we are going to differ, let us differ on principle. Let us differ on facts and not on a Stone Age kind of politics where people want to divide the country so that we can withdraw into our tribal enclaves. I think we are beyond that, and the 2021 elections did show, beyond reasonable doubt, that Zambians are no longer going to vote on tribe. They're not going to eat tribe, but they are interested in service delivery. So we welcome the criticism. We know that the opposition is there to offer checks and balances, and the PF does take it too far. And I think, personally, I think it's high time that we criminalized tribalism because it's got the potential to even spawn seeds of hatred and genocide. We don't want a repeat of Rwanda here in Zambia. But if you have got apostles of tribalism like Chimba Kambwili and Steady Mwale being allowed to run their mouth, I think it's a danger to society, and these people must be checked.
All right. Let's get to hear from Comrade Alex.
Thank you.
Yes.
Comrade.
The question is loud and clear for this round.
Sure. As CF Comrade, we are an organization that does not entertain issues of tribalism. This is why we have a very balanced team when it comes to tribe and region, because we understand that this nation can only prosper and move forward when all of us come as one, as Zambians, and take it where we want to see it. Even if the president was tribal, as an organization will not even come out and paint him to be a tribal president, because we know what has been happening in these other countries, Rwanda, what happened in Kenya. Those are things we wouldn't, want this nation to go to. This is why when the president issued a very tribal statement about when he speaks Nyanja, no one complains. When he speaks Bemba, no one complains. And when he speaks Tonga, people complain. We said, no, Mr. President, you are a president of the nation. You are the father of the nation. You shouldn't be speaking the way you have spoken. Those are things we look at, not that it's tribal, but the sentiments he has issued before, which can be divisive to, to region and tribes. But we know he's a sober president, and we wouldn't want to take Zambia where Rwanda went. We don't want to see Zambia where Kenya at some point went. We are one, and issues of tribe is a non-starter. We are one, and we want to see it to a level
I think
where...
for this round, before we get to the final round, I'll need you at least in less than 30 seconds just to say something. Should a tribe be considered or, a matter of concern when making appointments, especially that the president has the prerogative of making these appointments? Should a tribe be very important or something to consider when making these appointments? Let me start with you, Mr. Mufwani.
I think issues of merit is of great importance. But also remember in the Bible, should be David, if I'm not mistaken, who said, bring a son from a particular home of a king who had died, saying, I don't care what space the child is in, bring them, and the child was found to be disabled. And the child was allowed to eat at the king's table. Being inclusive is a solution to national unity and development.
Right.
My 30 seconds is up.
Comrade Simat.
Thank you. Like I said when I made my first comment on the issue of tribe, I said the basis of appointment, the basis of promotion, the basis of deployment into any area of government should not be based on your tribe. Neither should it be based on your gender, neither should it be based on your religion, neither should it be based on your race. It must be exclusively based on merit. Can you do the job? Are you capable of doing the job? If you are, then you deserve the appointment. I shouldn't ask you what your surname is. I shouldn't ask you where your village is. I shouldn't even ask what your race is, what your belief is. But of course, when you talk about tribal balancing, I think that is a self-working mechanism. When you look at the various elected leaders that we have, starting from councilorships, mayors, and MPs, I think by and large, most of the people that are leading their communities, their constituencies, awards, are homegrown. They come from within the spaces where they stand.
All right.
So by and large, I think people have got leaders who they feel comfortable with, people whom they can relate to. Nobody's being imposed on others. So I think this issue of tribe must be laid to rest.
Comrade Alex.
Thank you, comrade. Like I said earlier, as CF, issues of, employments and everything, it's all based on competence. Nothing else. This is why you've seen me today coming from Southern Province under a president coming from Wapula Province. It's because we have an organization that is not just talking the talk, but we are walking the talk, where issues of regionalism, tribalism are concerned.
All right.
We believe in competence and nothing else.
All right, great. You've seen, we've been trying to get to look at, our conversation has been bordered on the Zambia that the Zambians need. Many Zambians dream of a better Zambia. What is this better Zambia that the Zambians need? If we do not have it, if the Zambians don't have the Zambia that the Zambians need, how can we attain the Zambia that the Zambians need? This is the final round. You need to nail it.
How we can attain the Zambia that the Zambians need is by actually taking time to look at what Zambia must prosper stand for. Zambia Must Prosper is a political party that actually is interested in the welfare of its citizens. Like the Citizens First, Zambia Must Prosper is concerned about the welfare. When we talk about development and unity, like the United Party for National Development, Zambia Must Prosper looks at all those issues. We're looking at a way in which we're going to be Zambians in our space. We're looking at a life where we're going to look at the abilities and try by all means to even promote an education that adds value in the life of a human being. We're talking about employment area and also empowerment and also issues of entrepreneurship. That is what Zambia Must Prosper is actually trying to bring in the political space of our nation. Ours is when Zambians prosper, or when a Zambian prospers, Zambia itself gets to prosper. That is why, and our solutions, like we talked about, issues of industrialization, production. The idea is to ensure we have enough human resource, trained human resource in our nation. But we also want to add more through the education sector. We also want agricultural sector to be actually heavily empowered, because once we get to invest heavily in agriculture, provided every single Zambian has not mythical 3 meals, square meals a day, actual square 3 meals a day, those are things that we're trying to bring in. When you talk about issues of, I'd say, the mining industry, we have head of the gold mines in Mwinilunga, so to say, and all these other discoveries. Our soil, God gave us so much to sustain and not even depend on international aid. The Zambia Must Prosper is coming with itself, with so much hope for the Zambian people, and bringing to the Zambian people the solutions to ensuring that we get to thrive and develop as a nation.
All right. Let's get to listen to, the member of the ruling party. You have the mandate. Will you be able to offer the Zambians that they dream of?
You see, as a ruling party, we want Zambians to feel that they are Zambians. We want Zambians to have a better life. That is the duty of every government. We go into these elections, we go into this campaign promising people a better life. And what is a better life for the average Zambian? A better life, especially for the youth, is when they can have a job, when they can have a business that they can depend on to provide for themselves and their families, when they can have access to education, when they can have access to quality healthcare, when they can be able to exist in an environment that supports them to grow, to achieve their dreams. I think that is what Zambians want. And our mandate as a government is to ensure to say that we put in place policies that enable our people to prosper, that protect our people from poverty, from exploitation. I think generally that is the direction in which the government of President Hakainde Hichilema is moving. Not to say that we don't have any challenges. Challenges are there, but as leaders we also pledged, and we still pledge, to consider those challenges, to confront those challenges head on. We are not shying away. It's not about the ideas that we prepare as politicians. It's about food on the table, education, healthcare, infrastructure, housing, water, and sanitation.
Comrade Alex, as a party, you're yet to test even an election. What is your blueprint with what is happening? What is your blueprint to be able to make Zambia, and according to your name, put the citizens first in everything? What is your blueprint?
Thank you, comrade. For sure, we haven't tested an election, but we are behind a leader who has a very powerful CV where governance, civil service issues are concerned. We are behind President Hari Kalaba, who has been minister before, who has been member of parliament before, who has been in civil service for 10 years. So this is a man who understands issues of governance. Coming to the Zambia, us Zambians need, we need a Zambia, comrade, that is going to have a proper leadership, a competent leadership, a tried, tested, and now trusted leadership of President Hari Kalaba, of course. We do not need a colonial mentality type of a leader who believes that anything foreign is super for Mother Zambia. No. Not only that, comrade. The Zambia we need Zambians to be doing businesses freely. We need policies by the government that are going to support businesses, entrepreneurs to thrive in this economy. Not only that, comrade, we want to capitalize on the God-given minerals, not a leader or a government that is going to surrender something freely that has been given freely by the Creator to us as Zambians, to be surrendered to the Western, to be surrendered to the outsiders. That is the type of a Zambia we want to see. We want to see a Zambia, comrade, where we are going to be one. We are going to be one in unity, and we are going to do all those businesses without fear or favor. That is the Zambia we want.
Right.
That is the Zambia we need.
The time is up. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you for the fearless night of the Blank Talk tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, great. Here we end today's edition of the Blank Talk. My name is Keith Mwemba. We're back until next Monday. It's good evening.
Zambia, the home of copper. This is Zambia, Christian nation. Yeah, yeah. Give us, you give us. This is Zambia, the home of copper.